Last time we had a Joe Adam episode. This time we get a Pa Hoss episode. Just like with the previous one, the two members who will not be sticking around for the conflict of the episode ride away just as the conflict rides in. Again, they must have just missed each other. Unlike a wagon with a dead body, like the one that Hoss and Ben missed in the previous one, though, this is the Morgan gang riding in seemingly normal, so it's understandable that Joe and Adam didn't notice on their way out to take sunny California by storm. Okay, is it just me, or can you imagine the previous episode and this one happening at the same time? Adam and Joe go off with the Johnson posse, while they're gone, Ben and Hoss deal with the Morgan gang in town. It works because the inept Depp who went with Joe and Adam wasn't even the regular guy. Okay, fanfic ideas aside, a few of the brothers of the Morgan gang, dang, that's a big family of all boys. No wonder they thought they needed to go into bank robbing. Stop into the bank and even let a lady pass before revealing their intention. What nice guys. When one of them doesn't believe that there is no more money left in the vault and goes to attack the banker, Hoss fights back and Ben has to kill one of the brothers to save him. Ben is hurt too, but not as bad as Billy Morgan, who dies shortly after returning to the camp. Ben is taken to the home of Anne Samuels, a saloon girl who says that she owes him. The sheriff seems like a good man this time around, refreshing, and calls for men to go with him to get the Morgan gang. Incidentally, there's no mention of holding any of them for trials, so I'm assuming there's already a price on their heads, though that isn't expressly said. And they could have done it because there was recently a prosecutor in their midst. Speaking of, former prosecutor and current town drunk philosopher Tom Pryor offers to go when very few of Ben's friends make the sacrifice, but the sheriff denies him, thinking he's too drunk. Carl Morgan finds out that his brother was shot and acts like the others might as well not be his family too, and this was obviously his favorite brother. We all have one of those, right? He sort of commands Billy back to life. For obvious reasons, it doesn't work, and Billy is dead. He blames everyone, from the rest of the gang to Ben, when really it's his own fault for raising his brother to be a murdering robber. You know? As always seems to happen, he swears revenge on Ben and sets out with the remaining gang to ride into Virginia City. They come across the posse, and they kill them all. They return slung across their horses with a note pinned on the dead sheriff by his badge. His wife's reaction to his death is genuinely heartbreaking. She is played by Jacqueline Scott, who also plays Purnell's wife in a Gunsmoke episode that he will later do. Also, Tom Pryor is played by Simon Scott, who will play Arnold Slocum with Purnell in Trapper John later. The two are not related as far as I could find. Let me know in the comments if I'm wrong about that. Pryor gets on his soapbox about the lack of courage that seems to befall the citizens of Virginia City once they realize that the sheriff wasn't able to take care of the Morgans by himself with just two other men. Before that, they wouldn't shut up about what they were all willing to do for Ben and all that they owe him and yada yada blah blah. When Ben finds out that the posse all died, he says that it was for the best? Okay, I know what he means, but that can be taken wrong, the way that he worded it. What he means is that it is for the best that the Morgans got past the posse and are coming into town. Ben tells Hoss a story about his uncle and his pet sheep. Apparently, he had both at one time. He says his uncle sent him to take care of a pack of dogs who were killing the sheep, and my mind begins to wander as a coping strategy so that I don't have to think about those dogs. And so here's what I came up with. Did Ben live with his uncle at one point? He never really talks about his parents much. And if the uncle is taking him to deal with dogs killing sheep that were Ben's sheep, that sounds like he's maybe Ben's guardian? We know Ben had a brother, Will's father, but that might not have been planned canon yet, and we still don't talk about Grandpa and Grandma Cartwright. So do with that what you will. Let me know in the comments if maybe I'm crazy or maybe I'm onto something. Ben comes up with a plan for catching the Morgans, but that plan takes a lot for granted because it depends on having his friends and neighbors helping out. Hoss sees how eerily quiet the town is now that everyone is hiding. He's calm initially with the first few men who let him down. Eventually, he gets sick of it and barges into the saloon that has big doors and not the standard small swinging doors that you normally see. It's a small detail, but one that I noticed. Doc is so afraid that he won't even change Ben's bandage. Pryor offers his help again, and Hoss accepts it, calling him the only real man in the room. Anne is not happy to see Pryor, but puts up with it, sort of. She hates him for talking the town into convicting and hanging her husband, who was an innocent man. We never find out what he was accused of, though, but I can assume it was murder, because he was hanged. She also kind of tries to rat Hoss out for lying to Ben about having the town behind him, then asks Hoss why he didn't tell Ben. I like her for the most part, but that was kind of dumb. Hoss doesn't want to tell Ben because there's no need to make him feel even more helpless, when there's nothing he can do. Whether they help him or not, there's nothing he can do to influence that, so why upset him more? Anne also kind of taunts Ben a little bit before Hoss gets there, which is weird. She says something like, "Where are all your friends, Ben?" Like, I don't think it's meant that way, but it sounds like she's taunting him. I don't know. Maybe I read into that wrong. Pryor lies by omission about all the others who aren't actually out there. He has good experience talking fancily with his former job. Once the Morgans ride in, Ben figures it out. Stanford, another man who claims Ben saved his life, is on board to help, until he sees that Pryor is the only other man besides Hoss and ducks out. Pryor gives one of his speeches in town, and the doc is moved enough that he decides yet again to help. Pryor seems like he's going to chicken out too, but goes up to the windows in the rooms upstairs from the saloon and shoots from up there. Carl Morgan acts like he's unaware that Ben was hurt, or like he can just walk out whenever he wants to. I mean, I know he wasn't there, but shouldn't he know the condition that the guy he intends to kill is in? I don't know, I kind of feel bad for Carl because I feel like he's just got a bunch of ninnies around him, half of whom are his brothers. The Morgans ride past the Undertaker's place in a subtle nod to what is to come. Ben goes out to fight, and Hoss realizes that he can't stop him. Pryor is killed along with all the other Morgans, except for Carl. Anne holds Pryor as he dies. Ben goes one-on-one with Carl, and Ben wins. As Carl is dying, he acts like he's seeing Billy and says he tried to avenge him. Ben says that he expected too much of the townspeople and underestimated Pryor and Doc. As the episode ends, Hoss and Anne help Ben back into the hotel. Boy, are Adam and Joe going to be mad at the town when they get back. I'm sure that they'll make a point of mentioning that at some point, right? Right? They wouldn't just drop the plot, would they? This won't be the last time that the citizens of Virginia City disappoint us and the Cartwrights this season. I truly don't know how any of them look at any of the Cartwrights in the eye ever again after this one. I find it interesting that the merchant's wife seems to call him a coward toward the end of the episode, just before the shootout, when previously she seemed to not want him to fight, and she was glad he chickened out. She even stands up to Hoss when he goes to round him up. So again, we're out as sheriff, and this one was actually worthy of his badge. There are a couple of Morgans whose actors will star in more episodes going forward. Mort Mills as Carl and John Milford as Ned. Hoss shines in this episode as he does everything he can to protect Ben all by himself, and you can really feel the anxiety in the way that the mood is set throughout the episode. So from Hoss's perspective, you can feel the dread for most of the episode. Simon Scott plays a believably drunk drowning in his guilt. Whitney Blake as Anne shows the pain and the strength of Anne very well. We're again missing Hop Sing, and I just picture him at home, again, with dinner waiting for the family, who isn't coming home, again. I'm sure they didn't know at this point that he was going to be a permanent character in the show, and I'm just glad that they eventually figure it all out. But you can kind of understand if you piece it all together, looking at it from the perspective that we know now with the show having ended. All the times that he threatens to quit, it was for things like this. I mean, Have you ever not told somebody that was cooking dinner for you that you're not coming, and then they make the dinner and then you don't show up? They want to kill you. I don't blame Hop Sing. All in all, I like this episode. It hooks you in and sinks your heart when the town fails Ben, and Pryor's resolution with Anne just before he dies is a good way to end both of their storylines. In the next one, we'll have all 4 of our guys together again after being broken apart for the last 2 episodes.